We did it. Don't you want to be noticed, Ivan? Don't you want to be noticed?
Every day, but mostly by Laura. Hey everyone, welcome to Hungover Podcasts, number something or other.
94.
Wow, that's a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
My name's Ivan, over there.
I'm Julien. Welcome to the podcast,
After 94
everyone.
podcasts, we still don't know how to do this smoothly.
Yeah, well, I think that's what the people keep coming back for, you know? It's the random possible intro. Who knows? Are we going to save that pig today? I don't know. Are we? Are we going to discuss the recent listings and marriages of in the New York Times?
Possibly.
What else? Well, are we though? I'm excited to discuss that, but I think the topic of the show is actually recently a scientist in China, Shen Zhen. He's a geneticist. He decided to go ahead and genetically modify a human girl. Two human girls. They're twins, actually. And so these girls are alive right now, and they were born, and they have genetically modified genes. So that's
twice the DNA,
nuts.
Twice the fun.
That's pretty nuts. We're going to be discussing that during the topic of the show, of course, but you can get this podcast every single Monday at 9 a.m. on Twitch. No, not on Twitch.tv. You can get that. You can get it on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play in audio form. But you can also go ahead and check out our YouTube channel, Hungover Gaming, and check out some sweet videos of us. But also, of course, the podcast gets uploaded as a video on that YouTube channel. But you can come be part of the conversation live at twitch.tv/jujubizgood. That's my name. Don't wear it out. The links are in the description below. It's auto-hosted by Comrade Boyar, who is Ivan over there.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you, I'm having a good time today. It is currently Sunday, and in true hungover gaming fashion, I'm a little hungover. Now, Ivan.
Dude.
Yeah.
Way to go.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you, sir.
We start our podcast out every single week by asking each other, what media have you been consuming, and what did you drink last night?
Oh, by golly, gee willikers, my man. There is so much to talk about this week.
Where's this going?
The movie wrapped this week, so I am done with that. So I might actually finally be able to get into a normal life schedule for a little bit.
Nice.
Maybe I'll go to LA to work on commercials for a few weeks.
Yeah, I also like that. Even though it would mean that the podcast would have to be postponed, or I would have to find someone else to be in the podcast with me. We'll see.
I couldn't possibly take all of my gear to LA.
You can take your mic.
The mic and the webcam. So.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway.
Look, there's a time difference. Things get complicated, all right? Who knows?
I don't know how to convert the time.
You know the commercial industry, man. They work you around the clock, burning the wick at both ends.
Just every day.
Yeah.
So, this week, not too much media consumed by me, but there was a lot of different alcohol consumed.
Very good.
I went to a party on Friday night where I got to play Jackbox with a lot of people.
Wow, you have really nerdy friends.
Yeah, no,
I'm impressed, man.
It was Jackbox Party 3.
Whoa, have you played that one?
That's a throwback. Yeah, it's the one I own.
Is that why you got to play it?
Yeah, it was. We played it on Switch, actually.
Cool.
Which doesn't really make a difference, but it was super cheap, I'm guessing, which is why it was purchased. I won Trivia Murder Party and came in second in Quiplash at least once.
Nice. Congratulations. I don't know at all what that means. That's a game I've never played. But it sounds
Thank
like
you.
fun.
I think it was.
Okay.
More importantly, I'm gearing up to play the D&D the Star Wars version of D&D, Star Wars Edge of the Empire.
Whoa.
I have recently purchased the core rulebook, the beginner's game, and the Game Master's kit. So I got like this dope ass hardcover screen with all the rules on the
Uh-huh.
inside, a cool graphic on the outside, super sweet
To
dice.
be the dungeon master?
I'm going to be the DM. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be all the NPC voices.
It's pretty cool.
Utanata solo.
Oh,
Anyway.
God.
You know how I love to do that
It's
voice.
that. What language are they speaking there?
Hut
Hut?
TM?
They're speaking Hut. Fair enough.
Why not?
I don't know. That sounds like a lot of fun, Ivan. Are you gonna get a group together in Syracuse, or how you doing?
Yeah, I have about 3 people right now, 4 if you
Yeah.
count Laura, so we might start soon.
Very good. Very good.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah, I'm really excited that that I'll have like a group to play a D&D type game
Now,
with.
how do classes work in Star Wars D&D?
This is the thing, it's really difficult. It's really different than basically anything I have seen before. I'm excited for it as a general rule,
Mm-hmm.
but I am unexcited to have to completely learn a different kind of system. So when you do a skill check in this one, there's not like a DC that you have to beat.
Yeah.
So in D&D, like you roll a D20 and then you have some stuff that you add or subtract into that roll and you have to beat a certain number. In the Star Wars game, you roll and then you roll like a competitive roll against it and like you have to do some adding and subtracting based
Yeah.
on the roll. And that tells you whether you've been successful or not. And it's a bit different and I think a little bit more complicated. So there's a lot of things to learn. Also,
Okay.
there's spaceships,
Uh-huh.
and you have to learn how spaceships work. So it's just like, it's going to be a
Wow,
lot.
that's out of control. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm excited, but also nervous.
Uh, it's a fun thing you could do. I think that's gonna be a good time. Good times in the Star
Yeah,
Wars
yeah.
universe. Yes.
What have you been up to, my dude?
Hey, Brookworm. Welcome to the party. Brookworm's really into spaceships. I don't know if you knew this.
I wasn't aware.
But she has a very successful Twitch channel that everyone should follow, at least, where you may or may not see spaceships on. You don't know. I don't know.
Depends on the game.
Depends on the game.
But yeah, there are spaceship battles. You get to pilot
That's
them.
really cool,
There's spaceship
actually.
battles. You can board each other, I think. It's
Oh
a
my
whole
God.
nother level to D&D.
Why hasn't D&D been like this before? What's going on? Why weren't
I
there
think there are
horse
space
carriages
mods to D&D,
or
but
something? Or
like,
horses in D&D?
there are horses
There
in
are?
D&D.
Oh, man, well, not in
Yeah.
my campaign. Sorry. You're welcome, Brooke. You're welcome.
He's
But
the best.
that's all. That's all you did, Ivan. You worked hard and then you stopped working,
No, I haven't
and you
stopped
went to a
working.
party.
I've worked every day since Sunday.
Very cool.
Yesterday I closed. This morning I
Yesternight.
opened.
That's awesome. I've done that before.
I was so tired.
back in the day. Back in the day when I was flipping burgers at ye old Pier 25. Close
today
and
was
open.
the 8th day in a row
The
I work.
worst.
Tomorrow's the 9th day in a row I work. And then
Very
I get
good.
1 day off.
What are you gonna do on that day? Sleep.
Damn it. I wanted to organize a wine tour. Damn it.
Wah, 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 wah.
Laura.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, cool. I guess I'll discuss what I talked about.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so what I did. This week has been fun, to say the least, maybe. Starting off the week, I went to Boston, actually. I went to Boston to go to the MRS Fall 2018 conference, which is the Materials Research Society conference, which is pretty fun, I guess you could say. It takes place in the Heinz Convention Center every year in the fall, and I believe in the spring they have one in Phoenix now, which I'll probably never make it out there. I don't know. That's a little far. Even Boston, pretty far. By train. It's 4 hours away from New York City. It seems like these two cities are so like interconnected by history and rivalries and things like that. You'd think they would be closer together, but they're very far away because Boston is super far east of New York City, I believe. If I'm not right, that's the reason why Boston, it takes so long to get to Boston, because I guess that part of America juts out, right? It's not that far north, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I don't think it is.
Right. So
how long is the drive?
I took the train, and it takes 4.5 hours, or it took me 4.5 hours, which is, I mean, totally doable. Don't get me wrong. It's just not a day trip type situation, which is what I wanted to have happen, because I don't like Boston that much, and I keep having to go back.
I don't like Boston either.
What?
I don't like Boston
right?
either.
Man, come on, this city. But let's discuss Boston a little bit more. So I whenever I go, I actually have found out in recent years that I really love traveling alone. It's a relaxing thing for me. So maybe a little therapeutic. I get to go experience new things. So, and I've only really been traveling alone to conferences like this, even though, I mean, my whole lab group went to the conference. We just went separately. And I saw them there.
That much, or?
Actually, yes. that's not my fault. All right. I tried to be friends with them, but anyways.
Whoops.
Boston is the worst. Fake NYC. Yes, I did say that. It is a fake NYC. It's a whack ass NYC. Anyways, so Boston, I was my goal when I go to a new place or a place that I'm not from, Boston isn't that new to me. I've been there many times. Is to get, the local food and try. That's always my goal.
So did you go to Mike's?
I don't even know what Mike's is.
Dude, some of the best cannoli in the U.S.
Cannolis?
Mike's
We got
Bakery.
cannolis in New York City. I wanted to get something that I couldn't get in New York City. That
You got some chowder?
Authentically. So I got the chowder.
You got chowder.
And the
You
lobster
got
roll.
fucking chowder?
So
How do you like them apples?
I had 2 bowls of chowder in one day. Very bad for my arteries, but it was delicious. So I immediately got in. I came in. I left at 8:30 or something, and I got in at like 12. And then I immediately got off the train, found a pub, like, let me get some chowder. Gotta get the chowder. It's Boston. That's what I think the New England cuisine is like, right? Some chowder, some seafood. Yeah, it pretty much is, right? Anyways, so I did that, and then I went to the conference, went to one of my lab mates' talks, and then I was supposed to present a poster between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. that night. So that's why I couldn't leave the same day. I was totally trying to do it. So I basically was like, okay, well, that means I get 2 meals in Boston. Let's go for dinner. So I went to this nice restaurant, which is called, I think it's a very famous restaurant in Boston, I think, called Neptune Oyster.
I've heard of it.
It's very good. It's a very small space, and it is always crowded, I hear. It was a rainy Monday night, essentially. As this is how Boston treats me every time I go. It's always fucking rainy. It's always windy. It's always cold. I hate it. So that's maybe why I hate Boston. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why. But this place was really good. So the chowder I had in the beginning was like when I first got in, was like a thick cup of chowder, right? Had the clams in there, that type of thing. They put some fried clams on top, which was a nice touch. I actually like that. The chowder that I had at Neptune Oyster, I was pretty impressed with. I think the person who is the chef there went to culinary school, because this was a very fine soup. It wasn't like a very thick chowder. It was like a looser soup. So it was definitely like a distilled type of thing. And they had the clams in there. They put some nice potatoes in there. It was really good. Had a very smooth finish. It was a great soup. And they like chopped up some parsley on it as well. That was pretty nice touch. And I also got a lobster roll there. It's something I don't typically get. I try to stay away from lobster rolls, at least in New York City.
Food?
No, not at all. I love lobster because it's super expensive, and two, they always give you like a baby portion of lobster, and you end up paying a small fortune for it. So I figured, I can get lobster in New York City, but I hear the lobster is better towards the north, as you get closer to Maine, obviously. Boston is known for, getting some fresh seafood, so I splurged. I spent a small fortune on this lobster roll, and it was actually a very huge lobster roll. So lobster rolls are typically very small things. This one was like a foot-long hot dog, essentially. Not that they made a hot dog out of lobster, but they have the buns, the hot dog buns that they put it on. So it's like a brioche bun, and they just piled this thing with lobster. It was like a full lobster, essentially, on this roll. It was so much.
That's pretty
and
tough.
Then they just put butter on it, essentially. The bun was super saturated with butter, so it was like, okay, I can't eat this bun. This is too much. But the lobster was very good, and then they just gave me fries. So, okay, this meal was delicious because of the lobster, but everything else involved is questionable. I don't know.
Get some slaw with that.
Yeah, I know. Give me some accoutrements. Let's go. Something more delicious than just
I
fries.
completely forgot that a couple years ago, my friend who lives in the Boston area invited me to a lobster boil or whatever. And the person who hosted it, their parents drove in from Maine with fresh lobster.
Whoa, that's a move.
Caught that day.
Damn, that's sick. Did you?
It was awesome.
It must have been great. But yeah, so that was, well, I mean, then I went back to the conference and presented my poster. Actually got a lot of people talking to me. I guess they give out free beer and wine at the poster session. So people get drunk and then they discuss science. It's kind of the most nerdy way.
That's kind of like
drunk.
us.
Yeah, pretty much. So I mean, I like the poster sessions. They're fun. There's 600 posters, and you can go talk to different people. I think it's exciting. But I don't know. It was a fine event, and then I went back to the Airbnb and left the next morning at about 11 p.m. Where I was promptly met, walking to the train. I look down to my left and I see a homeless person, and this homeless person was holding a needle and had a spoon and a lighter and was clearly shooting up heroin. So fuck Boston, I'm out. And then I just went home. This woman she had her, it was freezing cold, by the way, because Boston. And so she had this raggedy old, this is horrible to describe, but this raggedy old blanket on, and she was just laying down, and she was shooting up heroin in Chinatown in Boston. It's like, oh man. I live in New York City. I've lived there all my life, born and raised. I've never seen that in New York City. Never. Not once. Wow. That was pretty crazy. But yeah, so that's what I did on Monday and Tuesday, I guess. And then the rest of the week, I've been grinding it out in Dark Souls. Sharp right turn there. Grinding it out in Dark Souls.
No, not really. It sounds like Boston and Dark Souls are set in the same universe.
Yes, definitely. I've beaten everything in Dark Souls now except for the final boss. I'm trying my hardest to beat the game before Smash Bros comes out, because God only knows I'm not playing anything with Smash Bros for the next year. That's not true. I'll be playing Overwatch 2 with you, Yvonne. Don't worry. But I can't wait for Smash Bros. Super excited. I hear the game got leaked in Mexico, so people have the game and have been illegally posting online. So Mr. Satoru Iwata coming down with the ban hammer on these motherfuckers who are cheating, actually actively cheating. They basically pirated the game, and so that means that these people are getting a competitive edge, and people are taking it way too seriously. And they're like posting combos in the game, and therefore the Smash community is like, what, look at this combo, we need to ban this character. The game isn't fucking out, guys. We don't know what the meta is. So it's just like the Smash community is great because it's a fighting game community, but it's super toxic. Just like Overwatch, I feel like they're way too quick to jump onto things, and without even giving it a chance. If the meta changes, that's fine, man. You can adapt. You can try to adapt before you immediately ban something and immediately cut it off. It's like our political society nowadays. Anyways,
man.
But yeah, so I played that game. I played some more Beat Saber, and that's about it. I got really drunk last night too.
Have you streamed Beat Saber?
Yeah, I did stream it once. So I streamed a couple VR games, well, 2, Super Hot and Beat Saber last weekend, I believe, for like 6 hours. I was sweating so much. I was profusely sweating. It was out of control. But it was a great time. I don't know how many people watched because I was in VR. No, I kept checking the chat. That's the only reason I don't want to do it, is because I can't interact with the chat, which is the whole point of streaming, I think. But
fair enough.
But
I like looking at myself later.
I watched a little bit of it. I look like an idiot. God. But yeah, yesterday one of my good buddies came in. Just because he's visiting from California. He lives in California now. So we got some beers. I drank some Bell's Brewing Company was good. We had Magic Hat, and we had a Brooklyn Pilsner. Have you ever had the Brooklyn Pilsner, Ivan?
Yes.
It's pretty good, I think.
It is.
And then, we had this good sour. I don't know if you like sour beers, Ivan. I took a picture of it so I could remember it. I found it at the old local Whole Foods, where they actually have a very nice beer selection at Whole Foods. This beer is called Grim Psychokinesis Hopped Sour Ale. I'll send you the picture after the podcast. It's definitely, if you like sour ales, this is awesome. This beer is really good. It's very refreshing. I even think it's not even too sour. So it's like, if you don't like sour beers, you might even like this one. But
I do like a sour beer, but some of the sour beers are too sour, and it gives me heartburn. So
yeah, this one I don't think is too sour for you. I like this one a lot. It was a good Grim. Go check it out. Psychokinesis. But yeah, fun. I think that's all I have to say on my end of things.
I have an anecdote that is totally would deride us completely from the topic.
Let's do
that
it.
We've chosen.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I told you offline a few weeks ago that I received a photo from a random number based in the Pennsylvania area. This was a photo of I presume, young lady, in just a bra.
Oh, man.
With everything squished together.
Very nice.
Now, I didn't respond. I deleted it after freaking out and running to talk to my girlfriend about it. Like, what do I do? She was asleep.
Man. Who are you?
It was like 2 a.m. Laura was asleep. I wake up. Laura, wake up. We have to talk about this titty picture. She's like, she doesn't want to know you. Just ignore it.
It was just the picture with no text.
No context.
Just the picture. That's okay. I understand. That's a little weird.
Now, I was at trivia this week.
Yeah.
And the woman who we play trivia with told us that her boyfriend received a random text of a woman's of a woman in just a bra.
Oh God!
From the same area code, and I was like, "No,
whoa, that's
tell
so
him
crazy.
to send you the picture so that we can see it. It's the same picture.
This might be a bot. I don't know.
it's a bot or a scam, or I'm afraid that the picture has like some coding in it that's like just ripping through whatever device it's on.
It just tears up your phone.
I'm
Good thing
really
you
afraid.
deleted it.
Yeah, I know.
I think maybe they're just fishing to see who's going to respond, and then they now have your number in a database. But if you don't respond, which you didn't, I think maybe you'll be fine.
I hope so.
It seems
I'm
like
really
that type
worried.
of thing. If it's the same exact photo, then yeah, that's crazy. That's definitely a bot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same number. It's like a Pennsylvania
You know
area
what you
number.
should do? You should, Google can Google pictures from a picture now, I think.
Yes.
You should try Googling that picture if you have it. I don't know exactly how they do it. It seems like there's a drag and drop function, and then maybe you can track down where that picture's from, and maybe that'll give you some, I don't know.
So I did
anything.
upload it to my computer, which I'm scared of right now.
Nice.
But I tried to look at the metadata to see like what camera was used on, what phone. I think I narrowed it down to like a Motorola or a Samsung.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty
but
cool.
beyond that, I couldn't get the metadata from it.
That's impressive. Man,
I delved deep. I was like, who the fuck is sending me the photo?
That's a good point. That is a good point. Well, I'll tell you, Vaughn, I think that's a great way to segue our way into the topic of the show, which is...
Stay safe.
Stay safe, good God. And maybe in the future, you won't have to stay safe from the HIV virus because of genetic modification. We'll all be safe.
I mean, I'll still not be safe.
That's true.
Babies
in the future may not ever have to think or hear about the HIV virus because of a certain Chinese scientist named He Jiankui. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I tried here. He's a scientist at the he's a senior. No, I'm sorry. He's at a university in Shen
associate professor
Zhen.
at Southern University of Science and Technology in Shen Zhen.
Shen Zhen. Which is
I don't know
obviously
how to
in
pronounce
China.
Chinese words. This is like a deficiency of mine.
Well,
it's like
I mean,
all Eastern languages. I'm just like I don't have a frame of reference.
Well,
I'm
that's
sorry.
because of the way. I mean, the Chinese language is obviously all calligraphy, so it's very difficult to. The people who initially, obviously they're British. They initially tried to take the sounds that they were hearing and describe them into the English language essentially. So there's a whole way to pronounce those words, but you can never really get exactly the correct pronunciation without hearing it yourself. So it's not your fault. Don't worry. But yes, so, and especially when you're factoring accents, and Chinese people don't really take kindly to accents. It's just like they don't even try to understand what you're saying. So it's just how it is. But this guy, this scientist in Shenzhen, actually genetically modified human embryos that went into, I assume he took them out of into a lab in a petri dish, genetically modified. And again, I'm not the world's expert in genetic modification, but we have discussed in the past with CRISPR. So that's why we wanted to talk about this. I assume impregnated a woman with them, and then that, obviously went through its process, and the babies were born. Two twin girls who have a modified gene. I believe it's Cas9.
One of the babies had only one copy of the CCR5 gene.
Oh, CCR5. Sorry. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, this is a crazy story.
And so these people, they're human beings that are alive, were genetically modified before they were born, and then they were born. So this CCR5 gene was edited out, and I believe this is essentially, I guess in layman's terms, basically prevents these twin girls from ever contracting HIV through obviously sex, or maybe not obviously, but yeah, that's essentially what this guy did, and he announced it to the world at a human genome editing conference, I think, or seminar in Hong Kong, I believe. And to much backlash in the scientific community. So I think, where do you want to begin with
why
this?
is there backlash? Like, obviously scientists are always creating new breakthroughs and conducting experiments. Why is this experiment, or this, I don't even know how to call it an experiment, why is this experiment met with such backlash, in your opinion?
There's a lot of things with science, in all fields of science, you have to discuss ethical things, like the ethics of your experiment. Are you creating something that could potentially harm someone? That's possibly unethical, depending on who you talk to. Are you harming animals in your study? Definitely unethical. Are you, for psychologists, are you torturing people, psychologically? That's unethical, right? These are things
you have to provide informed consent for
of course,
your
that
subjects.
Exactly. So there's a huge ethical, I guess, line that most scientists, it's not written in stone or anything. Like, there's no laws against these types of things. Actually, I don't think there's a law against this. But scientists try to be as ethical as possible generally, with their experiments. And so the reason why this is unethical is because these children were born and he has another woman pregnated with CRISPR modified genes, as I think you said.
Right.
So he's not stopping. So the reason why it's unethical is not that he showed that he can genetically modify genes, and specifically this gene happens to potentially benefit, the person who eventually has these genes in their body. That sentiment seems like a good idea in the long, like, as a first step, right? Studying these things on the cellular level is really a good thing to do. It seems like that would be advancing our knowledge of whether or not we can genetically modify people. He actually genetically modified someone without consulting with anyone until now, essentially, and these kids are born, and we have no idea if they're going to have a good life, physically and health, in terms of their health, mental health, maybe, I don't know. There's so many variables that come into play here.
Way of knowing what changing this really does to a human being.
Exactly, yes.
We live in our human beings are such wonderfully complicated organisms that, like, we have had the ability to look at DNA, and we have the human genome sequence, right?
Yes.
And we still are learning how the human body works every day. Like,
right.
Every day, new like basic life science is being conducted in order to understand the marvel that is the human body, and how certain parts of it work, and how things like cancer works, how to combat it. Just like we're constantly discovering new things. Just think about how hot or interesting the biome of our stomach is being, that research is being done recently, right?
Right, yeah.
So everybody's talking about the health of a stomach, and how the bacteria contents of your stomach and your gastrointestinal process can change how you gain weight, how you
Yes.
are healthy, all these different stuff. And these are small, different organisms that they aren't human DNA, right? They're just built into our organism. We live symbiotically. And we have no idea how that, like, how the interaction between our DNA and their DNA really functions in the grand scheme of things. We're just beginning to understand the different makeup and compositions and the critical role that it has. So this technology, I mean, we've talked about it before in a few different podcasts, but we thought it was years away. And this is a guy who took the CRISPR technology that we talked about when we were afraid that people would be able to
Literally do this, essentially.
yeah,
Yes.
but we were talking about people editing their own DNA,
Right.
or creating some sort of like biological weapon, rather than what could be a different kind of biological weapon, depending on like what kind of interaction these humans have with the world. I mean, we still don't fully understand how GMO plants and animals really mess with the natural environment of the world. Like there haven't been
let alone humans consuming them. So
like there's not a longitudinal study that's existed for long enough and across a wide enough spectrum that really is like definitive. And there hasn't been a lot of funding for it because GMO is a big business. And where does the money come from to study GMO? It comes on the side of saying GMO is fine. This is not to say that I'm against GMO. The GMO business and GMO the product are two different things in my mind, but I still have skepticism on people saying that there's nothing wrong with GMO products. We know all the science, because we don't. The biodiversity, bioatmospheres, and just nature in general are too complicated for us to know every little intricate layer of everything that's happening and how the consequences affect each other back and forth. And this is introducing an entirely new level of that, because we'll have humans that we literally don't know how this will affect their lives with their interaction with disease, like contracting other deadly diseases, with their interaction with the other population. It's a crazy thing.
Let alone, so I mean, this is in their DNA. They can't get rid of it at all. I mean, we can't change our DNA, unless CRISPR comes out with some unless CRISPR becomes more sophisticated. I don't think we will ever able to alter our DNA while we're alive, you know? So these twin girls are going to grow
how do we
up.
get superheroes?
I know. How did the mutants exist? Anyways.
It's been so many years since Chernobyl, and all we've had is people with cancer, so I don't have high hopes for radioactive superheroes.
And so these girls are gonna live out their lives, and I hope wish them the best. You know, this is so crazy. I mean, I guess it's no different than I mean, it's not like they can do anything about their DNA, let alone anyone else could have done anything about their DNA when they were born. So it's just a hard fact of their life. They're going to have to live with it for the rest of their lives. But the difference is that this person actively did edit their genes, which is nuts. And so let's postulate for a while here, like you were saying, we don't know. And neither this is doctor, I don't think. There's no way he can predict what they're going to do in their lives and what they're going to come into contact with. There's no way he can go through every single possibility, mix these genes with every other virus known to man. There's let alone what if a new one pops up, right? What if these genes don't mesh well with the flu virus, right? There's a different flu every year, and so who knows? Maybe these children are going to be more susceptible to certain viruses and things like that because of this gene being edited out. That being said, another huge risk is what if they decide to have kids as well? They're going to be passing down this edited gene to more children, and so. It wouldn't be right to say that they're not allowed to have kids because of that. So I mean, that's the, yeah, exactly. That's another ethical thing that we have to question, and it's going to be a line that we cross when we come to it, but or when they come to it. But it's crazy to think about this whole debacle as a whole. I can't believe it actually happened in our lifetime, honestly.
Neither can I. It's we were thinking that this is something that would be introduced along the lines, and we did talk about CRISPR is kind of this wild west of gene editing. But it's still such a crazy. Oh my god, I'm still like, my mind is blown by the fact that these kids are born. It's not just that you're playing with the embryos. Sure, we can edit like embryonic DNA and come up with different things, but to have the gall to actually go forth and say, I can guarantee that the health of these children will be good enough that they can proceed and they will not affect the people around them, and that I can guarantee that they receive proper medical care throughout their entire life and are tracked, and like, essentially these kids don't have an opportunity to be normal, right? Their entire life is going to be an experiment. Like,
people are going to be watching them all the time. They're going to be newsworthy for the rest of their lives. It's going to be crazy.
At what point are like at an ethical level, it's like we are putting such a burden on these kids' lives that like, is it ethically acceptable to make an entire person's life an experiment?
No. No, it's not. And that's why this guy is under fire right now. I don't know if he'll... It's again... I don't know what happens to the scientists. Like, are we going to is the scientific community going to blacklist him for the rest of his career? I don't know.
It seems like he partially funded this project on his own, and that since the research that he's doing has already been funded to this point, I'm sure there are going to be some people that will privately invest in his research, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like all of the safety guards that we've had, the idea of that should exist in science, have failed to this point. And it's hard. So one of the people that I've been reading in response to this is, it's hard to call this a scientific breakthrough because there has been such just terrible fuck-ups along the way. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and again, this could be a success story. These could be the first humans that are immune to HIV, and, you know, they could end up being totally fine. You know, I'm not in this field. I have no idea. I didn't read his paper either, so I don't think I would get much from it, even if I did.
He hasn't published it
yet.
Oh,
yeah, he just submitted it, right. That's what you said. So, first of all, this paper or his findings and his work are not even published yet, so it's not something we can really delve into at the time. But and maybe I'll try to read it when it comes out, or if it's ever published, right? So who knows if a journal will actually accept this as peer reviewed and things like that. But maybe it is a success story, but I don't know if we'll ever find out. We won't find out for a long time.
A journal has an ethical responsibility to publish things that adhere to the standards of scientific ethics, and part of that is informed consent of patients. And how can you have literally embryos that become babies? How can babies give informed consent? They can't. Obviously, their parents have to. But these are people who their entire life will be an experiment. So at 18, do you have to have like a transition of informed consent?
Yeah,
and what if these kids don't want to be an experiment for the rest of their lives?
I don't think they will. Or I should hope they don't want to. Maybe they're brought up like a test subject, and that's just all they know. So they're like, all right, let's just do this. I'll sacrifice my life for science or something. I don't know. Yeah, so that seems like something that would come out of China too.
It could be slightly non-invasive too. Like, you just go to checkups every few months or whatever, and it's not super invasive.
It's just
but
like
your
going to the
entire life,
doctor.
you're known as the person who's like Oh, you're the genetically engineered person.
Right, and who knows the psychological implications and that type of thing. My vision of this guy, this scientist, is someone who's frustrated with the scientific process. I think he probably saw that science obviously is a very slow moving thing. We hear about all these. You'll see articles like this from CNN. Some scientific breakthrough. Now we have better. This material could potentially be a better battery or something. Some crazy headline like that, right? And it ends up being work that was published like a year ago, and they're just reporting on it, and that nothing really comes from it. So, or no immediate product is coming out that has much better battery life, for instance, using this technology. So I think what people fail to realize a lot about the scientific process, having ideas, doing fundamental research, is that it is an incredibly slow process. You devote people devote their entire lives to making one process a little marginally more efficient, right? So, or maybe they make large breakthroughs that lead to something after their life is over. So, like for instance, Albert Einstein, he studied quantum physics, for instance, and that led to almost every breakthrough we've had in a lot of different fields, specifically technological fields, going to space, that type of thing. So a lot of the time scientists don't get to see their work in the final form. Like this, I made this material to be amazing, hopefully one day, right? So I think maybe this guy is frustrated with that process and didn't want to go through all of the hoops and things you have to jump through to be a successful scientist the right way, the ethical way, and just decided to do this on his own. I think, as you said, he's self-funded, at least partially. So he used a lot of his own money to make sure this went through, somehow got people to agree with it, specifically the people involved, like I guess the woman who gave birth, and decided to announce it that he did this without any consent from his peers and his colleagues, any input from them. He just decided to completely ignore all the social and scientific norms that we have as a society and just went forward with his idea, his crazy idea. So I think that's probably where he is mentally. But I hope, I can't believe this is a thing. And it's only 2018, Ivan. We haven't even made it to 2025. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I know.
We haven't even made it there. This is crazy. Oh,
I need genetically engineered cats to be even cuter and more fluffy. That's what I want.
Right. You figured we would do this type of thing on an animal first, for instance. Yeah, as unethical.
Like on animals.
Yeah, we do this on animals.
Diseases for animals.
Yeah. You think that, I mean, and I remember they cloned that the sheep, right, Dolly, a long time ago, and Dolly did not have a good life. God bless you, Dolly. We all loved you. But it's like maybe we should try it before going into clinical trials with humans, and this is common practice for all FDA approved drugs and things like that. We have a process set in stone that is rigorous and make sure that no one gets harmed along the way. No human anyways. Of course, plenty of animals die for the sake of science, which is you gotta take it for what it's worth. We're so there's the scientists that do this are trying to advance human medicine and things like that. So you have to weigh one life versus the other, and humans generally value their own lives more. So so it's like this guy just bypassed everything and just went straight for it. So I hope we'll find out where this goes. We'll find out if this scientist is still a scientist. We'll find out if he does it again. We'll find out
Will he have his
in the
position?
future, are these children going to be all right? Who knows? Only time will tell. This is going to be a very long study. And it could end up, like I said, it could end up being that these children are fine and he actually made a great scientific breakthrough. It wasn't an ethical scientific breakthrough, but maybe he did. Who knows? Maybe he took a chance on 2 children's lives and it paid off. You know, sometimes you do have to do high risk, high reward type things, but I think this was a step too far, at least one step too far. And I think that I hope that those children are all right, man. That's all I gotta say. What about you? Are we done here, or?
I have one last.
Yeah, or do you have
thing
to
is
cover
that,
something? That's good. That's good.
I'm wondering if it also if the reaction to it also has anything to do with the location from which the science was.
Oh yeah, you want to right.
Transmitted.
It's important to discuss this. It's a Chinese scientist coming straight from China with Chinese science. So that's the rhetoric around it.
I think that there's a lot of skepticism from Western scientific academic communities about Chinese science overall, and the validity of the results, the ethical experimentation, and just a lot of the fact that I think that universities in China are not as accepted. For the overwhelming majority of Chinese universities aren't accepted as high caliber institutions, not ones where research is coming from. But there's obviously a lot of research being conducted in Chinese universities with some pretty major funding. So it's interesting to me, does the fact that it's a Chinese scientist with, if this experiment was conducted in the United States with as little regulation as there is, it would have been criticized. But is there a secondary level of this, an Orientalist anger against it because of the nature of the Chinese origin of the work?
Well, yeah, it's difficult to tell because it seems like all of his colleagues and peers that were at this conference were not in support of his work. And it's difficult to tell whether or not it's because he's Chinese and this is Chinese research coming from China, or if it's because they just completely disagreed with his work. So I don't know specifically, but I'd have to say I definitely know what you're saying about how we question. And I know this from a deeper standpoint, that we do question a lot of Chinese research because it's coming from China. I see that a lot in my field, at least, because there are a lot of Chinese material scientists out there, and I definitely, when I read a paper and I see where it's from, where the research was done. I do have to question something. Maybe I've been conditioned this way. Maybe it's wrong for me to think like this, but I do question a little more the results that I get, that I am reading from a Chinese journal. Well, not necessarily a Chinese journal, but a Chinese research group. They publish in Western journals as well, and they publish in Nature, and they publish in Science and things like that, as a lot of them should, of course. So I think it's more, though, which journal you're getting into. I don't think it's specifically that it's Chinese research. I'm Chinese myself, and I do question some of the validity of some of these things. But I think the caliber of the journal is really important. when you're reading research papers, but also it's not at the same time. I've questioned a lot of nature publications as well, in my field specifically, because sometimes you have to twist a couple arms to get your work published in the good journals, and maybe you have to manipulate some of your data or cherry pick your data so that it looks good for the nature figure or whatever. So it is a huge ethical question that you're bringing up. And so obviously in our current political climate, our current president does not take nicely to the Chinese government and China as a country. And so that can sort of sway people's opinion about China and, maybe in a slight way breeds some sort of racism towards Chinese people. So I know what you're saying, man. It's definitely a real thing. Scientists in America that aren't Chinese definitely do question Chinese research a lot. It's true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. But I can't say whether or not this guy is getting more heat because it's a Chinese research project. I don't know. That's tough to answer. Sorry.
Well, it's a complicated situation. It's like I don't think we can escape prejudice in anything, even something that's supposed to be as non-prejudicial as academics.
As science, yeah, and that's the thing, right? But I do know that it's not a lot of. I think that when you publish in a peer-reviewed journal, it's obviously the whole idea is that it's a trustworthy study, experiment, and you're publishing your findings. That being said, I don't necessarily trust all of the work that is published. Not specifically just from China. I question a lot of the work that's published from many different institutions. So it's not. Just like everyone, scientists can get lazy, and unfortunately, it's in such an important field where your findings are seen as fact, or potentially should be, depending on what you say. So that's something to know, to think about. You should always, I mean, if it's reported once, that's great. If it's reported multiple times, that's definitely much better. But I think it has to be reported by multiple people, multiple times in multiple journals before it's a fact in science. So that's what I have to say on the topic. There's grounds for questioning all scientific research, and I think that's totally fine. And it should be questioned until you can lay your questions to rest. If people didn't question things, then science wouldn't exist as a field of things that humans do. Yes.
Solid.
Yeah.
Final words.
If we don't start asking questions, then we're not going to get anywhere. So questions are really important. But yeah, that's. I hope that. Those children are right. That's all I gotta say, man. Those damn kids, man. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
But like I was saying, it's not like they could have chosen their genes anyways. But the problem is that someone got to choose for them. So that's the problem.
Yes. That is a good. Yeah. That is salient as a point.
Yeah. Anyways, I think we've exhausted this topic. But we'd love to hear from everyone else listening around the world, watching around the world. We always encourage you guys to keep the conversation going in the comment section below. We read the comments every day when we get them anyways. But Ivan, And of
Yep.
course, you can write into us if you'd like on social media, on our Twitter. We have a Twitter account, Gaming Hungover. And you can also contact us via our email address, gaminghungover@gmail.com. The links are in the description below. But Yvonne, we end our podcast every single week in a song in a segment called Hungover Radio. This is where you, the listener or viewer, can send in your music, whether you wrote it, played an instrument on, produced, did something. We love to share your music with the rest of the Hungover gaming community. 54 subscribers strong. Let's go, Yvonne. Let's go, man. We're going strong. We can make it to 60, guys. And then we're well on our way to 100. Come on. Actually, if we could leave it at 69, I'd be pretty happy. It's either like
we're gonna
leave it at 69 or get to 100. That's my goal. Either of those goals is fine. Let me see. If no one sends in a song, then I get to pick one, unless Yvonne has one for us. I don't know. Do you have one?
I don't.
I didn't get one. Now I have to find one. I don't want to play Dark Souls music because that would be the worst. Everyone would hate themselves. Let's see here.
Super Smash Metal Gear Solid 4 because of the genetically engineered, like the nanobot things.
Yeah, the nano machines in the game. Metal Gear Solid 4 theme song. I love that game. I'm still waiting until we get the release date on Death Stranding, Hideo Kojima's next huge project coming out on PlayStation 4. I cannot wait for that game. Once we find out the release date, then on my Twitch channel, I will be playing through all of the Metal Gear Solid games, including 5, not in chronological order, but in release date order. Let's do that. Okay. Because obviously the games go 5, 3, 1, 2, 4. I think that's the.
What about the interstitial games?
Oh, I'm not playing those.
Non-numbered ones.
There's only, isn't it just Peace Walker?
No, there's another one. Isn't there like Sons of Liberty?
Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance.
There's also that.
I could play that too. I have the game. I never beat that game. I was stuck on the last boss in that game. So difficult. That was a tough game. Good job, Hideo Kojima. Your life's work is amazing, and I can't wait for his next game, even though I still have no idea what it is. But we're going to be playing Metal Gear Solid 4 theme song, Old Snake, for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Tell us if there's a topic you guys want us to discuss. We are always open to discussing different things. And Yvonne, thank you so much for being part of the podcast, obviously giving us key insight into every topic that we discuss. Thank you so much, Yvonne.
Look at the big brain on Juju, though. That dude knows.
I literally don't know anything about gene splicing. not a thing I discuss at all. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. We'll catch you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.